Hello, I hope you hear me. Sorry for the technical issues here, welcome to today's Comodule webinar, where we are introducing our newest product. I'm Relika, the marketing manager at Comodule, and I'll make a quick introduction to webinar household rules and schedule. Today's webinar lasts for an hour, and the aim of the live webinar is to first introduce the product, but also to engage you and give you an opportunity to submit live questions. Please prepare and post your questions in advance. Also, we have prepared some pop-up polls for you, so be prepared to give us some feedback. In case you get disconnected or face technical issues, then please return via the link in the registration email. Schedule-wise, first I'll give you the stage to our sales hero and cycling king Sven, who join us from the German office, and later I'm going to invite to the stage Rainer, who's our mad scientist and product owner from Estonian office. We at Comodule say that Bonnie and Clyde is a brother for master, and Rainer is the father for both of them. And in the last half an hour, Sven and Rainer are going to have a live discussion. But super, thanks, enjoy the webinar. Sven, the stage is yours. Sven, you have to share the video as well.
Just a second. Here we go. It says that actually only the host can do it. Start my video. I would say I will start without the video, and if you manage to bring it on, just do it. All right, let's do it. Thank you, Ridika. And great pleasure to do this webinar. Haven't done this before, so it's a new thing for the company. And let's see how we do it. In general, I would say that the attendee list looks quite promising, and I hope that we get a lot of good discussions after, like, the presentation part that Rainer and I will have. So starting here with the presentation, I would start with Comodule. We are making more people enjoy riding a light electric vehicle by providing IoT solutions designed for the needs of micromobility. Our company is developing IoT solutions for fleet operators on the one hand and vehicle manufacturers on the others to reduce global environment pollution and traffic congestion. Since 2014, Comodule has connected more than 300,000 light electric vehicles to the internet and has helped to launch shared fleets in more than 60 cities around the globe. But why is connectivity important, and how does it help to improve your business? On a high level, connectivity helps you to achieve two things. First, customer loyalty, and number two, to get ahead of the game. What does that mean in detail? Let's begin with customer loyalty. Having loyal customers is great because first, of course, you need to spend much less money on new customer acquisition because your existing customer base will stick to you and will recommend your products to their networks. The ultimate goal, of course, for customer loyalty should be to turn them into users. So turn a customer into a user of your products by providing services around your vehicles that customers care about. Connectivity plays a crucial role to provide services that matters and create recurring revenue streams for you, basically. Being connected to your customers and vehicles help you to understand both of them much better. It does not take a lot to increase your customers' user and service experience once the vehicle have received a voice in a metaphorical way. So reward a rider by riding, for example, 7 days in a row, or warn him in case his battery is not performing as it's supposed to, have never been easier. And now, how can I get ahead of the game by using connectivity? Well, basically, as blurry as it sounds, without data, as clear as it gets with having the data. Connectivity helps you to make data-driven business decisions and enables you to stop crystal ball gazing in marketing and product developments, and basically also sales, as you can, for example, identify low-hanging fruits for your product development, or simply predict if you should prolong a warranty period, or if you better don't prolong it based on data that you have from your vehicles. Another beauty of connectivity is that, of course, you can adapt the character, feature set, or performance of the product over lifetime. So your vehicles literally start to live and should help you to well distinguish from your competition over time. Stay ahead, basically. Last but not least, digital interface to the vehicles enables you to offer new use cases and business models. Theft protection has so far been the most prominent use case in the bike industry for IoT, but there's a lot more to come, especially when it comes to new businesses like, for example, leasing, sharing, mobility, no matter if it's long-term sharing or short-term, those subscription models, or, for example, a free floating network in a city, or also second-hand vehicle sales. Connectivity will always play a crucial role for all those different use cases. Let's move on. What do we do? Now, we have been mainly focusing in the past 4 to 6 years on bicycle manufacturers and fleet operators, as you can see here. Whereas the market entry for vehicle manufacturer has been tough in the past, the market entry for fleet operators was a lot easier. The main reason, therefore, was that the business case of connectivity for example, shared mobility networks is crystal clear. You need to be able to remote observe and ideally also control your fleet in order to be successful to run the fleet. And this is exactly what we are good in. The successful market entry has helped us to go global and scale up with customers like Uber, where we exclusively did the IoT for their kick scooters under the brand Jump, for example. And at the same time, it helped us to improve our platform and to be able to offer top-notch technology. Especially free floating networks are a great playground for connectivity, as operators usually offer a global product in high quantities and operate and optimize those fleets remotely. And of course, have the aspiration to have a 100% service availability. So after having witnessed in that connectivity micromobility has mainly been used for fleet operators, there is an ongoing trend since 1 to 2 years that also bikes for private use cases are equipped with cellular connectivity. Especially companies selling direct to consumer with a digital mindset and who are able to entertain their customers, enter the market and see connectivity as a necessity. Well, but how do I get connectivity into my vehicles? And do I have a chance to get a vehicle platform connected that has not considered IoT in the early development days? So is it possible to still get it into it? Before I'm looping in Rainer here, who will then basically raise the curtain for our new product, Bonnie and Clyde, I would like to give you a brief fact sheet about our track record across the past 6 years. That's this one here. So basically, what you can see is that in total, again, we have connected more than 300,000 vehicles. Most of them are connected via cellular network, not only via Bluetooth, and basically we also operate those vehicles live. So we guarantee our customers that we provide the full service around those cities. They don't need to care about telecom or cloud services at all. They just get a, let's say, an operating system from us. We're live in 45 countries at the moment. We have gathered, or the vehicles we have connected have gathered more than 50 million kilometers in total. And our team has also grown up over the past years a lot. So in total, we are 80 professionals now, whereas most of them are located in our headquarters in Tallinn in Estonia. At the same time, we have our production facility also in the city of Tallinn, where we basically produce our own telematics and products. And on the other hand, we do have a sales office in Germany, located in Nuremberg. Now, well, that was basically the first part. Now the idea is that we get Rainer on the stage, who will explain you what is the product all about. You will have the chance to put in your questions during the sessions all the time, and after Rainer has finished, we would like to go through those questions together with you and answer them. Now, before Rainer starts, please have a look into this great poll here. So, are you already using IoT? We would like to know from you. Second question is, what sort of IoT solutions are you interested in? So, light IoT for us, light IoT means Bluetooth connectivity only. Full connectivity means that, well, that's cellular connected connectivity. If you don't have any idea, please open and tell us. Now, Rainer, the stage is yours. Thank you. You're still muted.
Yeah, cool. Now I have sound. Thank you, Sven, for this introduction to connectivity. So our story for a new product can begin. But first, let's have a look as a reminder what our current product portfolio is. Firstly, we have what we like to call our light product lineup. Why light? Because in terms of connectivity and features, they do not have an all-encompassing feature set to cover all needs of high-end bikes. We have the access module and the dynamic display. In terms of connectivity, both support Bluetooth only and are able to relay data to bike functionalities like power, charge speed, and so on. The access module, this happens via a connected end-user app, but with the display product, the end consumers will have this available on the display and at their fingertips. Just a moment. Of course, all the data will reach the cloud as well via the end consumer app. Secondly, we have our full IoT product. This brings cellular connectivity and location tracking to the table, enabling us to get live location and bike data directly to the backend for live monitoring. Also, the master module adds more features and functionalities which allow our customers to add third-party accessories. All this means that master product is capable of also solving vehicle sharing use cases in addition to a premium OEM needs. So I will quickly do a deep dive on the master module, which we believe is the true module to connect the bike with any rider's lifestyle. I believe one of the key features for end consumer is the theft defense. By having a connected bike, it can deter thieves, but also when the bike is already stolen, it enables to recover the bikes. We actually have a track record of recovering more stolen bikes than what have been stolen. In case of organized thieves, one connected bike can also help to discover other non-connected bikes as well. And then, of course, cellular enables live bike data download and remote controlling of the bike parameters. End consumers and OEMs do not need to wait until a smartphone is connected to the bike to receive and exchange data, meaning that service centers and dealerships could run live remote bike diagnostics and solve some issues without bringing the bike into the shop for repairs. And as mentioned, the master module can connect directly to third-party accessories, either via Bluetooth or the wired connections. For example, external locks, lights, alarm systems, and even some environment sensors and RFID readers can be connected directly to the IoT, making it possible to extend the bike capabilities. Finally, of course, as with all our products, OEMs can keep updating the features and the experience that they offer to end consumers. With over-the-air updates, we can, of course, update the module itself, but also we can update the bike drivetrain, battery, or display firmware, for example. Okay, so I would say we have a good lineup that is able to cover the so-called light applications and also more difficult premium applications, including the sharing. So let's try to understand kind of where is the problem, right? Let's first have a look on the access module. It is very small in size, has only one connectivity technology, meaning it has one aerial antenna and one radio frequency we need to consider when integrating. So with a new customer, with a new bike model, in order to integrate this device in terms of mechanics, we can fit it quite easily in the bike frame. And as only Bluetooth signal is to be considered, we can usually find a spot with ease to solve customer use cases and connect the bike. The second, with the diamond display product, it is actually even easier. It will never go inside the bike. Display has only one place where it can be, the handlebar. We only need to consider different handlebar sizes, but this is quite easily controllable and easy to adapt to in case of new integrations. So far, quite easy, right? However, with the master unit, it starts to become slightly trickier. In case of sharing, it yes, has been relatively easy as industry has accepted rather large and clunky external boxes that can be mounted externally on the bike or scooter. But at the same time, we see that this is changing and not acceptable due to a trend of vertical integrations in our industry. Finally, it gets the trickiest in case of OEM integrations. Of course, we have a standard casing, but first mechanically fitting it into bike frames has proven to be a complex task. And then to get 3 antennas and 3 different radio technologies to perform on a high quality level while being completely inside a metal frame presents us yet another very complex problem. Thus, almost always we have to do custom integrations for the customer. And usually in the end, the easiest part of this is the firmware integration actually. Of course, here a note applies that for this, we do require the communication protocol of the bike itself and clear understanding of the bike functions, also known as the requirements agreed by us and the customer. So to sum up the problem, it is all about the integration. The part that makes most integrations time-consuming and costly for the OEMs is about the mechanics and the antennas. And this has become even more critical now when, unfortunately, the bad thing, the COVID virus, has boosted bike sales, and the OEMs are coming with requests towards us to have IoT in the bikes within 3, 2 months, or basically now as soon as possible. So let's try to see what the solution might be. Of course, it's the Bonnie and Clyde, the new partners in crime for Comodule. What we have done is separated one big clunky setup into smaller bits to allow more flexibility in integrations, while also, of course, updating all the internals to modern hardware and optimizing for small size. Now let's try to dissect the Bonnie and Clyde a little bit. We have the main unit, which we call the Bonnie. This takes care of the power supply, handles the key bike functionalities, and also houses 2900 milliamp battery. The second part of the product, the antenna unit, this we like to call the Clyde. Clyde houses all the antennas for cellular, GPS, and Bluetooth. We can support 2G, 3G, and category M1 for cellular connectivity. We can get satellite data from 3 different positioning systems at the same time. And of course, we do support the Bluetooth 5.0 standard. And then we also have the cables. For one, to connect the unit with the bike, and the second cable for additional accessories like locks, bike lights, RFID readers, and so on. The third cable, the middle one, connects the Bonnie with the Clyde. And what is cool about that is that it isn't strictly speaking an antenna cable. It has a proprietary communication protocol between the 2 units, allowing us to elongate or shorten that cable without having the need to retune the antennas to a specific cable length. Again, key aspect for quick integrations. And finally, of course, the separate bit is the adapter for the antenna unit. This enables to fix the Clyde unit under the motor cover or any other plastic bit on the bike. As it is a separate and rather simple adapter, then these can be made with ease, and eventually we expect that we will have adapters available for all my major drivetrains. Okay, so what does the Bonnie and Clyde change then? As Lepik mentioned, we like to call it the brother of the most powerful IoT unit that we have, the master unit. Why that? Because while giving a completely different form factor and having made the unit itself smaller, we have retained all the same key features of the master unit. Additionally, we see clear benefits for anti-theft use cases. The main unit can be hidden deep into the bike frame, and the antenna unit can be hidden under the motor cover. The unit will be well hidden from the curious eyes of the thief, and even if they find and cut away the antenna, then the main unit can detect that and shut down the complete e-bike system, rendering the bike useless. All this means that integration will be simpler, less time-consuming, and cheaper for OEMs. It has been designed keeping mid-drive bikes in mind, but we have already explored solutions with some partners of putting the antenna unit under the simple HMI that many e-bikes have. By this, I mean that quite a bit of e-bikes have a button and some LEDs on top of the top tube to turn the bike on and off and to show the state of charge of the bike. They are made of plastic, and we can fit our small Clyde unit underneath such a plastic cover, for example. So I believe this is it for now. Thanks for listening in, and we are looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, Rainer. And yes, as mentioned, we're now looking for your questions. We also have a first question here, or there are a couple of more to come. I would maybe start with the first one. IoT Clyde functionality. Is Comodule developing any centimeter level accurate GNSS using RTK positioning capabilities, or are you exclusively focused on sub 1 meter accuracy using PPP or other solutions? Maybe Rainer, you can explain a little bit what those expressions are, and maybe open up the question for a wider audience.
Yeah, so we're not focusing precisely on RTK solutions. It gets costly quite fast. And yeah, it requires basically an external base station to get an accurate location, right? So we are basically exclusively focusing on sub-meter or near-meter level accuracy. Of course, always in the urban canyons, it's rather near-meter than sub-meter accuracy.
What is RTK, or what does it stand?
I actually don't know by heart. I would need to check that up. Basically, okay, it stands for real-time kinematic, but as far as I know, yeah, then this also requires external base stations to kind of support or bring up the accuracy of the GPS or GNSS. All right.
Thank you. We have an anonymous attendee asking for a pricing. That's a good question, and I'm also happy to answer this one. This is probably my job. Please just send us an email, and we will get back to this one. Now, Summit has a question. How would the module communicate with the controller of the mid-drive system, and how would the connection be completed? Not 100%.
Please repeat the question. I didn't quite get
it. Basically, how do we connect the module to the drivetrain, I would say, and how is the connection completed? Well, maybe I can say that we are always connected to the communication protocol of the drivetrain. So it's not only that we receive power from the drivetrain, but we also receive a communication, and this communication usually works in both directions. So on the one hand, we can read out data, telematics from the bike, and visualize it for our customers. On the other hand, we are also able to control bikes remotely. So we can also send commands back to the bike for a certain operations, basically. I hope that answers the question.
I mean, in terms of physical connections, there's always the chance, or I mean, this is always defined by the bike and the bike manufacturer. If you already have some, let's say, connectors available for IoT, or also we can usually, splice between the display connections as well. So, I mean, on physical level, the connector can easily be changed, of course. And in terms of what sort of communication protocols do we support, then it's CAN bus and UART protocols. So both of them come with the device out of the box.
I can see that we do have some VIPs here in this chat. Hannes Neupert was asking that question. Now, another VIP, Sven Holterman, also wants to know if 45 volts are the limit.
Yes, that's the upper limit. Of course, with some foam changes, we can kind of go higher, but out of the box, it's 45 volts is the maximum limit.
All right. Maybe if it's a bit complicated for me to understand all the questions here at once, but maybe I can also ask you a question, and you can I can digest the other ones in the meantime. So in terms of connectivity standards, Rainer, I think the demands are or requests from the companies, micromobility companies, are actually quite high, because either micromobility operators but also vehicle manufacturers, they all want to, or most of them want to, operate or perform their services within urban areas at the same time, and they also want to be able to get bikes out from the city and perform well out there. And on the other hand, of course, all of them, or most of those players think in a global way. So actually, those services should perform worldwide. What would you say is the right connectivity standard for them?
I mean, we fully believe that if we have modules that are able to connect to 2G, 3G, and category M1, then that is definitely enough, and that is also kind of helping us to optimize the pricing for the customers. Of course, you see that people or kind of customers have approached us and asking about, for example, NB-IoT as well. This wouldn't work for moving use cases, and at the same time, definitely a trend that we see is that people want to get more data out of the bikes, and NB-IoT would eventually kind of it just doesn't have the same throughput as category M1 has. Another discussion point is why not go fully, basically the 4G or 5G that our cellular phones use. I mean, it's simply battery life and the pricing. For example, in terms of a 4G chipset, it's basically 4 times the price of a good Cat M1 chipset.
Thank you. Let's jump into this one here. When will Bonnie and Clyde be available? We will start mass production beginning of the year, January, February, and basically with a lead time of 6 months, we can provide modules to the market. So mass production, we will ramp up in January, February. Some questions are not 100% clear for me. Another VIP from Berlin asks a question here. What is the MOQ to customize antenna and connecting data length? Good question, Mr. Schindlauer. I would also like to, I think this is something we simply need to discuss. And if there was an MOQ for custom cable length is, as far as I understood it from Rainer, actually quite easy to achieve, right, Rainer? Yeah,
very easy. Probably can't tell you the exact numbers right here, right now, but yeah, it's I wouldn't expect the MOQs to be large at all. I think we can already start with something like 1,000 units or so.
What is average battery autonomy with GPS and 4G, and can the battery be recharged independently from the bike battery? Example, what is the idle watt-hours consumption? That's a question from Alex Giomo.
I mean, actually, yep.
Well, it would be great if you can put your questions in a way that I can simply read them through. As you see, I'm struggling with some questions here at the moment. There are a lot to come in. That's just a remark. Rainer, sorry.
Yep. So I mean, the battery consumption depends on a lot of aspects. I mean, I think here the watt-hours consumption wouldn't kind of provide the full picture. Because the module does not broadcast all the time. During like normal use, in OEM use cases, we actually see that we can definitely promise around 72 hours of battery life when, for example, the bike is stolen and constantly sending data. And in case of regular day-to-day use, then it's a week or two depending on the usage. And of course, the battery or the module battery can be charged independently, or let's say, meaning that it's able to recharge the IoT battery from the bike battery itself. So even if you don't recharge the bike battery, then the module battery will stay charged. But of course, in the end, you still need to recharge the bike battery as well.
I hope that helps, Alex. Then we have a question, which engine manufacturers or protocols are supported by default by your solution? And is there a default range, or would every engine be a custom solution? Do you want to take this one?
I mean, I can. I mean, we just announced our cooperation with Brose. So we are in very good contact with them. So far, right now, we have an integration with Bosch in place. At the same time, we are already working with Brose. I think Bafang is in the pipeline, and maybe, or hopefully sometime next year, we can also launch a Shimano connected unit.
Basically, I think to sum that one up, over the past years, we have created very good relationships to basically all premium drivetrain manufacturers in the market, I would say. And on another note is that so far we've not received any light electric vehicle that we could not integrate in Tallinn. So I wouldn't say every solution is a custom solution. I would say for all, let's say, high-end drivetrains, we do have an integration already in place. But then it also, of course, depends on the use case and what kind of information you want to be able to read and what information you want to be able to maybe also manipulate. Eric has a question. Which other devices can the device interface to? For example, electric locks or custom hardware?
Yeah, so for example, AXA locks we can kind of support right away. At the same time, any lock that has, or actually any device that has a UART interface to communicate with the device, this we can integrate. In technical terms, the module has 3 5-volt GPIOs. We can provide kind of power to other devices, and there we have an option to provide either 6 volts, 8 volts, or 12 volts, and of course the UART communication interface itself as well.
This is probably also the answer to the question of Bas, who's asking if we are able to communicate in CAN and UART, but also LIN. Is LIN also supported?
Actually, we have dropped LIN at this point, as we didn't really see any customer requests on, we didn't see any customers coming in with bikes that have a LIN communication so far.
And Pete is asking if we also support ANT+.
Yes, that's actually supported as well. So all kind of ANT+ sensors can be added to this device.
All right. Which antennas do you typically use? Is there a limit on the distance of the cabling between Bonnie and Clyde? Are the antennas typically placed in the handlebars for the best signal strength? And how do you test the performance of the antenna in advance of integration? Do you have anechoic tremors for this? Some questions on the antenna part from our anonymous friend.
Yep. Yes, we do test the antennas. Usually with the Bonnie and Clyde, as I said, it's mainly made for mid-drive bikes. So mostly we see that this will go under the motor cover in the bottom bracket. At the same time, in case of those top tube HMIs, it can be on the top tube as well, where we expect actually even better performance. It's not facing to the side, but rather directly towards the sky. In terms of our testing, we do not have an anechoic chamber in-house, but we have a local partner here where we can test the devices. What we usually do when we get kind of a let's say a integration request that wouldn't go, for example, to a mid-drive, then we would request the full bike setup here, do the firmware integration, attach the device, and we'll go to an anechoic chamber with it, and also do testing on the streets as well.
I also have a question right now.
Yep.
How do you see the trend? Because there's a lot of those, let's call them premium drivetrain manufacturers will probably also come up with their own IoT devices in the future. How would you, or what do you think about those solutions, and what would you recommend to bike manufacturers?
Well, one first thing that kind of pops into my mind is that we have been dealing with this for 6 years now, right? So we have kind of made the mistakes and learned from it. So in that sense, we probably are a bit ahead of the curve. As the bike OEMs, they need to still make their mistakes probably. And on the second aspect, who's to say that those drivetrain manufacturers will not actually outsource the IoT? So in the end, it might be branded under some drivetrain brand, but it still might be made by Comodule or any other company who's dealing with IoT.
Yes, I think, maybe that's also important to mention that we as a company, we provide products to the market which are always white labeled. So there's no Comodule brand out there in the market. We always adapt to our customers' wishes when it comes to the interface for the data use cases, but also of course the branding. And on the other hand, we also provide engineering solutions for larger corporations who think about connectivity solutions. Bas also has some more questions on the firmware of Bonnie and Clyde. If it is possible to control the firmware on the one end, and the other one is so to chain the communication protocol of the Bonnie and Clyde, for instance. So maybe I can take this one. What you get from us basically is an end-to-end solution. So our approach is that we do the integration into the vehicle for you. We take care of that. You should fully focus on the use case and the business case, what you want to provide to the market. Just tell us, okay, I want to be able to see this value, or I want to be able to manipulate that characteristic of the bike. And the more control we can get from you over the drivetrain, the more we can offer to you. And then in the end, what you get from us is basically a peace of mind that you don't need to care about anything beyond your use case. So you can imagine it like having an operating system from us, and you build the apps on top. So you can literally build a mobile app, and we provide you an interface which communicates with this with your bikes basically. And the same goes also for a web app, for example. So we can also provide interfaces so that you build your own apps on top of this communication. So in the sense of, in terms of the firmware code on the PCB, that's something which we need to control in order to make sure that the quality of the whole platform will remain stable. Because, well, if we would start implementing third-party firmware codes on the PCBs, then basically we will never get the platform stable, because every small change on the code you need to test. And if you imagine that there are a couple of 100,000 bikes out there in the market, then you need to be able to control everything. That was the question of Bas. You connect to CAN bus. Does this mean you can read the proprietary data from Bosch? Is that correct, Mr. Lepik?
Yes, we can, or we don't have access to all the data, but if you want to connect the Bosch drivetrain, then yes, this we can do, and you can easily contact us, and we can go in depth of what we can do and cannot. Of course, always it's good for us if we can get more bike manufacturers behind their back to start influencing Bosch more and more to get access to more and more data.
Then Eric is asking a question for Bosch drivetrains, and he's asking if there's also a possibility to use Bosch e-bikes for sharing operations, and maybe even attach an AXA lock to it. This is definitely something that is doable. That is actually also something that is already in the market. You can, for example, go to Movelo, which is a campus sharing model. They provide sharing bikes to big companies, for example, Deutsche Telekom. You can go to a station, rent out a Movelo bike, which is usually equipped with a Bosch drivetrain and our IoT, and it also has an AXA lock. So you open the Movelo app, open the AXA lock, and you can drive home if you were a Deutsche Telekom employee. So yes, this works. This works well, and for us, basically, the use case is for us not that relevant. I mean, let's say the integration is basically the same for both. They have basically the same requirements when it comes to the hardware integration. When it comes to the platform, data consumption, cloud services, then we usually distinguish between private use cases and shared mobility use cases, or leasing, or bikes on subscription, so long-term rentals and so on. Which connectivity provider do you use? Filippo is asking. We are using a partner which provides us actually a worldwide roaming. So we're jumping from one network to the other on a global scope. And well, this we also kind of guarantee to our customers. Maybe one additional thought on that one is, I'm not sure if we have fully covered that one before, Rainer. What about countries where we see that one connectivity standard is fading out? So, for example, 2G is sunsetting in one country. Did you touch that before already?
No, I mean, not during this presentation.
Maybe you can explain how we tackle this this situation, as we want to provide worldwide connectivity to our customers, but of course the requirements in different markets are different. Some countries phase out 2Gs, others sunset 3G.
Mm-hmm. I mean, something that we have definitely seen is that countries where kind of 2G is being phased out, at the same time they already have either phased in the Cat-M1 or working heavily towards it. So that's why kind of on the Bonnie and Clyde unit, the standard module, or kind of the one module that we recommend to all, is this category M1 module, which has a fallback option to 2G networks. Of course, when talking about global connectivity, there might be some edge cases, but these we kind of will solve with a 2G, 3G module in certain areas. Overall, in US, category M1 is kind of fully working already. In Europe, it's, well, 2G is still open, and at the same time, Cat-M1 is being kind of pushed forward as well. So yeah, our market being mainly US and Europe, these are kind of the choices that we have made so far.
Cool. I hope also Filippo is happy about that one. Now our anonymous attendee is asking if the antenna, that the module is located actually inside of the top tube, if it's there, if the antenna module is inside of the top tube, then it provides the better performance. And the question is if it also applies to cases where the top tube has no cutout to integrate a button, etc. What would the performance be in a fully enclosed top tube?
It's a very tricky question. I mean, this is something that definitely has to be tested, and this is something that kind of would probably go towards a more custom solution. Ideally, there always has to be a cutout. At the same time, we have made tests and tried out different solutions where technically we can turn the whole bike frame into an antenna as well, or that the bike frame itself starts to kind of amplify the antenna signal. We have one customer who has kind of a module completely inside the bike frame and all the antennas inside the bike frame as well, and it works. But ideally, of course, yeah, for best connectivity and best accuracy, you want to have a cutout and you want to have a clear view to the sky for the antennas, basically.
Yeah, I think it is also important to mention here that we are really a fan of proper integration, in the sense that there is one space in the bike for the IoT unit, and the IoT unit is also fixed there, so it's not rattling around. And also when it comes to the signals and the signal strength, then you want to make sure that it's always it always provides the same performance. Like, for example, if you have it captured in an aluminum tube, then it's pretty much random how the signals behave, and probably it will also cause some problems in the end when it comes to an EMI test before you bring this bike to the market. So for us, it's definitely important that, and that's also the concept behind Bonnie and Clyde, that everything has actually a proper place, the antennas, but also the main body and the fixation. I think we're through with the questions. Oh no. Use a carbon top tube for that, Mr. Anonymous. That's a tip from Eric. But carbon top tube, I'm not too certain. Maybe it works. I think
carbon can still affect the antenna signals. So carbon itself is a conductive material as well. It's just not as conductive as metal. So it will definitely have an effect. Again, maybe it will be better, but it all starts to depend on the kind of geometry of the bike frame as well a little bit.
I think we're through. Thank you very much. That was how to say, exciting. And
yeah, first experience for us. Yeah, definitely exciting.
I would love to get your questions via email as well. We're happy to answer everything via mail, of course. And then Relika is taking over to finish up the session here. Thank you very much.
All right. I hope you hear me. Thank you, Sven and Rainer, for an extensive product overview and the interactive Q&A session. Apologies for the echo at the beginning of Rainer's presentation. I'll wrap up today's session with the key takeaways. Bonnie and Clyde has the easiest integration compared to other IoT units available on the market. It has the peace of mind package, which enables companies to focus on their business without caring for telecoms, and it has the latest IoT technology designed for micromobility. Because of the tight time schedule, we don't have an opportunity to answer all the questions, but feel free to contact us afterwards, and we'll send you the link afterwards in a follow-up email. So you can share it with your colleagues or rewatch it while you're eating gingerbreads at home. Thank you all for attending. Please give us feedback on today's session and wish you happy 1st of December. Good. Bye.